All right, y'all. It's the time of the day that you've been waiting for. It is the one show on air that will take you from the boardroom to the bedroom, from politics to the pulpit, and everything in between with your favorite friends. You are about to join the crew for Fresh Fire as we do what we do all together. Tune in.
Welcome to the crew, everybody, here on WHOV 88.1, iHeartRadio. We're on all the social media outlets and handles, whatever we call them these days. We got the crew in here today. You know what, Alvy? I'm going to be nice again. I was nice to you last week and started with you. You know, it must be, I'm like, for real, there must be something in the
You know what it is?
I got to figure out what's going on.
Creeping up on Mother's Day. It's because we're getting close to Mother's Day. That must be what it is.
So let's start with Dr. Alvy and Lyons, doctor, because, you know, we proud of her because she got two of them things. And so how are you, doctor? You doing all right?
I'm good. I'm good. My baby's back home. My husband was traveling for a week, y'all. And look, I don't know about any of you women out there. I love my man. So like, man, when he got back home, and I am not a crier, but I will totally acknowledge the fact when I hugged him, when he got out of that car, burst into tears. I felt like I had been holding my breath for a week and didn't even realize it until I touched him. I love my baby. He's home. So I'm good. It doesn't matter what happens in this universe. My baby is back in my bed. I am good.
Well, you know, it's refreshing that we hear a sister talk so lovingly and glowingly about her.
Oh, I love my man. I love my man.
Because there's a lot of them out there that will say, look, you want to take another week just in case?
Not mine. Yeah. I love my baby.
Well, that's good. That's good. Commonwealth Attorney, City of Hampton. But here, he's just Ton. You know, how come all black people got double syllable nicknames? You ever notice that, right? It can't be Ton. It's got to be Ton. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be two syllables.
Call me Ton. Ain't nobody else calling me. Well, you know what? I take that back. Someone else does call me Ton. So take that back, Yvonne. I take that.
It's always got to be two syllables. The black people can't have one. It's got to be Junebug, Junior, KT, you know, whatever the case. It can't be one syllable. It's got. That's how it is in our community. Bishop, what's going on, man?
I don't think there's anybody. I don't think any of the two syllables are worse than Ray Ray. So I
see Ray Ray. It got to be Ray Ray.
I get it all the time. It's just crazy. But
the only one syllable nickname is Stank. That's it.
And I know a couple of them too. I know
a couple of things.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
It's good to be on the show, though.
Good to see you. Last but not least, our producer extraordinaire, Jason Covington, who holds it down. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Good to see y'all.
Yeah, good to see you, man. So we are, everybody, by popular demand, because we got so many people that came up to us that hit us up after last week's show. We were talking about kids going wild. That's basically what the show was in these schools. And so
something that someone else said.
Oh, yeah. But before we get into that, Tom got to get something off his chest.
Yeah, we got to correct the record.
No.
He got some things he got to say real quick.
I'm gonna let Al correct it.
Yeah,
go ahead,
we got to correct the record. I was coming out of church just a few days ago, and one of our beautiful sisters out here decided she was going to stop me to be able to have a conversation about the conversation we had been having on air, right? And you know, my love to my sisters, all of them, and I am so grateful for the constant support. The thing that can happen sometimes is that because we're all talking, you don't know who said what. So she had said to me that she was, quote, hot as fish grease because of a statement that she thought Anton had made. Turns out this statement was about sterilization. And of course, the most controversial person on the crew was Bishop. And Bishop was the one who actually said it, who was quiet.
I know who that is.
It was Ray Ray. Ray Ray said it.
Ray
Ray from the hood was the one who actually said it. Commonwealth Attorney Anton Bell suggested no such thing. It was not him who said it. It was actually Ray Ray who said it. So I want to go on record that I wanted to get that cleared up because Anton's name must be good in these streets. while he completely acknowledges that he will shank you in a heartbeat and he believes in prison ministry, he is only going to go down for something he actually said, and he did not say that.
That's it. That's it. That's the point I want to make. I ain't got no problem with something I said.
Yeah, he just wants to be clear. It wasn't him. Ray over here, who is cheesing like a Cheshire cat, is the one who actually said it.
Yes.
Well, in all fairness, she probably was listening to it on the radio. Y'all, you know how you people all sound alike. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell the difference.
That's what that is. You people.
I'm just gonna make it. I'm just gonna make it Anton.
Talk on top of each other, so sometimes it's hard to know whose voice that was.
That is true.
It was not Anton Bell's voice that actually said that. It was Bishop Ray.
But here's the thing.
This is a good place to say that, though. This is a good place to say that. They say we all sound alike on the radio. Y'all need to be looking at us on YouTube, because we on YouTube every Tuesday. We on demand.
Absolutely.
Check out the Crew Radio Show. You can see what's being said. You can see Anton saying some things with his eyes and his face that if you can see it, the bleep button will be going all over the place because the way he look at us sometimes. And then you'll see the way Bishop will say things and snatch it back real quick. And then you see how Swan will say things and he will stretch the truth. We won't say that he lied. We'll say that he elongates what actually happens. But see, you can't experience that on the radio. You got to see us live every Tuesday. And it's important that y'all go ahead, like and subscribe, because we got bonus content that's out there where we talk about all the things that you don't hear right here in this space. So let's not just dance around it. We got to make sure people are checking us out on all of the social networks, so they can see us. They can see us, and we have a podcast, all that kind of stuff. We on the World Wide Web, the WWW. We on all that.
See, that's a good producer right there. He'll make sure he get the stuff out there, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to say this real quick, Ton. We're sorry that you got misquoted. I just want you to know that there are plenty of people at Ivy who know what you said about me and don't like you. And so I just want you to know that. You know what I'm saying? They don't like you because they say you talk to me too bad. You talk about me too bad, and they ain't playing with you. You walk up in Ivy and see what happens.
They gonna hug me. They gonna hug me. What they gonna do? They gonna hug me. They gonna be like, "Come in here. Come on here, Ton, because you're they gonna hug me." That's what they gonna do.
You think so?
I'm telling the truth.
Huh? You tell the truth. Well, keep on going, man. What we talking about today, man?
Let's get to the show.
Yeah, we picking up where we left off, right?
Let's see what controversial thing Ray's gonna say today.
Right.
So we are doing part 2.
We're
doing part 2 of our show concerning these students going off and beating on these teachers. Part 1, we talked about the student that slapped the teacher in the face 2 times, and then he's facing charges because he slapped her. Part 2, y'all, there's some twists going on. It's still talking about, some students doing some stuff, but there is a twist to it that we ain't gonna see coming. So let me just go ahead and put it out there. So there was a Florida student, high school student, who has autistic diagnosis. He has behavior diagnosis. Matter of fact, I'm gonna make sure I'm not reading it incorrectly. He's been diagnosed emotional behavior disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, mood disorder, ADHD, and autism spectrum disorder. Those are all of his disorders. He has been in our system as far as criminal justice system because of violent episodes in the past. He has spit on people in the past. He has beat on people in the past, including in jail. And he has had violent outrage incidents, okay? So recently, the young man, who is 6'6" and weighs 270 pounds, he was in class and he was on his Nintendo Switch. While on his Nintendo Switch, his teacher's aide asked him to not play with the game, and she threatened to take it from him if he didn't put it away. Well, that did not work well with him. So he spat on her. Then he stormed out the classroom. Well, she walked behind him to try to persuade him to come back into the classroom. And at that point, he went off. There's a video where you could see him slamming her to the ground, stomping a mud hole in her, beating her like he beating a grown man in the streets. There are teachers and staff members who are trying to pull him off, and it took several of them. Now, when I first read it, I was like, when I first saw the video, I was like, why can't this person pull this boy off of her? Well, I didn't know he was 6'6" and 270 pounds, and he's enraged at the time. So it took several of them to pull him off of her as he's wailing on her. She's unconscious by this time. I mean, he beats her unconscious. She's out. So she's lying there limp as he's wailing on her, and they're pulling and tugging and everything. And he finally get him away from her. She has to go to the hospital to get dealt with as far as her injuries, and she had some type of fractures and all. I mean, he beat her bad. He did some work on her. He did some damage on her. Meanwhile, he gets charged as an adult. Here we go. Because now you're in Florida, a red state, who ain't playing with nobody. And they said, you do grown man stuff, you're gonna have grown man consequences. They charge him with assault, but felonious assault and some other charges. And now he is facing 30 years in prison. And I did some research looking at some of the comments, and there were some comments where it's like, you know, he shouldn't have to face those 30 years. He has all these issues and things of that nature. But there are quite a number of commentary that says he needs every day of it, because we are sick of these students beating on these teachers. So there's split opinion concerning this. Now here's the twist. As if I didn't give you a whole bunch of roller coaster rides already. Here is the twist. His attorney is now suing the school board because he says that it's your fault, lady, that you made me beat you up. You knew I was a ticking time bomb. You knew I had all these disorders and that I didn't mind fighting if I got to fight. And you told me to give you my Nintendo Switch. You should have known that that was going to be a trigger for me. And so as a result of it, it's your fault that I beat you up. So I'm suing the school system. And there we got it.
I don't even know what to say to this. You know, I'm just going to let y'all talk today because you know what? FCC might get me today. I just, Alvin, go ahead, please. You go ahead. What you think about this?
I saw the video, and my God, I mean, Anton did not exaggerate. You all will see the clip. For those of you who are following what Jason said, get on and see us live. And this is not to promote violence in any form or fashion. We are not trying to sensationalize horrible things. What we are trying to do is to have some honest conversation about what's really happening in our school system. There is a reason why teachers are fleeing the classroom. There's a reason for that. And if we're going to change, and let me be clear, as a former school counselor, I am a former educator before I became a businesswoman. I have raised two of my students who came from very bad situations. And when they finished middle school, I brought them into my home, and they lived in and out of my home for 13 years. Okay, so like, let me be crystal clear. I am not one of those who like to sit on the sidelines and talk about what should be happening on the fields. I have been in the trenches in the most intimate ways, okay? And I didn't get paid to take care of these other people's children. I did what we have to do as a community. We got to get our hands dirty to be there for folks. And it's not just in the cute little, show up here and there when it's convenient. You got to be willing to do some of the hard things. So this is coming from someone who is willing to do the hard things. What is happening in our schools right now is nonsense, pure and utter nonsense. When it's criminal, it's criminal. I understand that they are children. I do understand that. But even where children are concerned, there comes a point where you have to hold folks accountable for the decisions that they make. And if we're not going to do what it takes to take care of these children, then we're going to find ourselves housing them in our jails instead, which is why prevention programs and intervention programs are so important. See, when you got politicians who don't want to fund anything until after there's a problem. So I will pay for you to be locked up, but I don't want to pay for the programs that teach social emotional intelligence. I don't want to invest in taking care of our educators the way that we should be taking care of our educators, that we're bringing the best and the brightest into the classroom. Right now, our educators literally have to be called like you are a pastor to be able to do this thing, because it's not like a regular job, y'all. Like, if you're going to do this thing, you got to be willing these days to die for it. Now, when did it come to a point where to decide to be a teacher, you got to make the same kind of decision that you have to make when you decide to go to war? Like, this is out of control, what is happening at this point. Do I understand IEPs? Intimately. What I question is the environments that we are putting these children in and making sure that we don't have the right professionals with these children. But even when decisions are made like that, the reality is that there's still legitimate consequences that come from these decisions because the action is still criminal. So it is how we figure out how to navigate these two spaces. And there's no easy way, but what I will tell you unequivocally, if we don't do something about this soon, all y'all going to be right back in COVID again, homeschooling all your babies because nobody's going to want to teach them. So we all know for 2 years, parents were like, oh my God, teachers are the best thing since sliced bread. But let us not forget that now that we sent our kids back and we're going back to business as usual, these folks are dealing with children who have been isolated for 2 years. If you don't think that that has social impact, their ability to navigate conflict, challenge, stress, anxiety, depression, you are in the wrong field. This stuff has real consequences, and we need to invest and take care and support our educators appropriately for what it is that they're navigating, because you are not just educating kids anymore, you're raising them. And some of y'all actually have to be patrol guards and everything in between. You got to be cops, you got to be psychologists, you got to be parents, you got to be nurses, you got to be doctors. You're expected to do everything in the classroom these days because unfortunately, too many of us parents aren't raising our kids at home. So the teachers are stuck with that job. So I have so many things to say about this from 100 different layers, but when you watch that kid do in this video, it's wild.
Yeah. You got to go to our social media pages to watch the video to really appreciate our conversation today. So make sure you do that. We're on all the social media platforms. Go ahead, Ton, and then Ray.
So one of the problems is in the lawsuit, he alleges that this kid was a ticking time bomb. He said you guys knew that he had not only had this tendency, but he had already shown you through past behavior, like spitting on other students, threatening students, leaving the class without permission, grabbing a female employee, and there was no restrictive placement concerning him. And the teacher that he beat up, this teacher had 5 broken ribs, a severe concussion, and hearing loss. That's how, because he was stomping her in her back and in her head.
Yep, you can see it happening. There were like 5 other teachers who couldn't get him off.
Yeah.
So is this school, is it a regular school or is this an alternative school? Do we know?
Regular.
So he was placed back in a regular school, even though everybody knew he had a history of violent episodes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why they're suing.
Okay. All right. That's all I need to hear. Ray, what you got?
So what we're dealing with here is, unencourageable, unrestrained, lawless behavior and a completely, totally lack of regard for authority figures all the way around the board. And as much as I appreciate the structural analysis and the social analysis, the psychological analysis, and I agree with everything that Alvin had to say, but this just come right on down to when he was, and my background in history is just like hers, former youth pastor, former high school a Bible teacher and basketball coach, worked with young people at least 15 to 20 years before I became the senior guy. I get it and I understand, and have worked with children who have autism. Okay. I'm not in this situation. I am not so compassionately concerned with the autistic diagnosis to the point where he's so uncontrollable that he gonna break 5 ribs, put her in a concussion, and then have a history of this kind of violence. This for me has happened, starts when he's 9, 10, 11 years old. And he's been allowed to get away with flippant speech, disrespect for those who are authority figures, and nobody has checked him. This is what the end result is when there is a lack of discipline. And I don't mean beating. When I say discipline, I mean the routine, behavioral, habitual patterns that continue to keep you on a straight and narrow. That is what discipline is. It is not beating and all of that other kind of crazy stuff. However, in this case, by the time he was 5'11" and 12, somebody should have been staring down his nose to say, no, this is what you're going to do. You're going to make, this is how you're going to do this. This is why you're going to do this, so that he don't get to 6, 7 and it's uncontrollable. That is what this is for me. He is completely and totally out of control. And it's a lack of structure and order and discipline in his life that produces this. So here's what I think needs to happen. An alternative school and a couple of scared straight programs. And I know everybody don't necessarily like it like that, but hey, last time I checked, Proverbs did say foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, and the rod of correction, whether it's in a facility or in Aunt Mabel's house with Uncle JoJo, will drive it straight on out. Well, and I've said it. My name Ray Johnson, and I'll pay for this message.
But here, whatever. But here's the problem, Ray. By the age of 12, that's too late. That's too late.
I agree. It's too late.
You got all of these disorders, and most disorders are birthed out of some type of trauma that has not been addressed. So the question is, what has been going on in the home? Because I know a whole lot of autistic kids, and I'd be quite honest.
They don't crazy like that.
No, most autistic kids that I have encountered, and I haven't encountered every autistic kid before anybody say that, I have not. But most autistic children that I have encountered, or even teens that I have encountered, are pretty mild-mannered. And so the fact that this guy has all these explosive behaviors and disorders and stuff, it's deeper than just being autistic. It's much deeper than being autistic. There's been some trauma that has occurred in this kid's life to get him to this point where he's explosive like that. This is just not happened overnight, and it ain't because he's autistic.
No.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Jason, we got to talk to you, man, because you are probably going to be the one that's going to provide the most level of insight into this whole situation. And again, for those who don't know, Jason is a school counselor. What do you call it now? What's the title, man?
Professional school counselor, sir.
Professional school counselor. I want to make sure I get the title right here.
Right. God bless you.
In all seriousness, right? Are you surprised by this incident, man?
No, and Anton, I know we're gonna come to this part in a few minutes, and the part I'm gonna harp on is this: we left his racial profile out of he's black, and what I see in the school system, and it goes to Ray's point. Us as a community and the culture, we don't believe in taking care of our kids. Our kids will have diagnosis. They would need medication management. They'll need counseling. They'll need therapeutic services. They need psychiatric help. In some cases, they need to be institutionalized for a season. But I deal with parents that say, my child ain't got no problem. My child don't need no medicine. And then, what Tom said, 12 is too late to be addressing these problems. Because by the time you turn 12, even though the brain hasn't fully formed, the patterns have begun to take shape, and the way they respond, the way they react to correction. Because again, I'm in a pre-K through 8 school, and I'm listening to pre-K students saying "shut the F up, B word," and then with the inflection that they say it, they sound like 40-year-old men. You don't come out the womb. I know the Bible said we were all born and shaped in iniquity. That's all scripture. However, some things are learned behaviors when you're in the house and you hear people talk to one another a certain type of way. You hear them say, you a B word, or you a this, or you a that, and that vitriol. That's one of Bishop's SAT words. That comes along with that. So you hear that. That's the first problem. Then 9 times out of 10, this child probably was not in a self-contained class. He was in an inclusion class. And for those who don't know the difference between inclusion and self-contained, and still, depending on what level of self-contained, that's the issue too. But self-contained is when you have like behaviors and disorders all in one room. Inclusion is when you have those people, respectfully, people who have disorders and cognitive abnormalities in the same room with what we'll call a regular child, general population.
Okay, so
all those things are combustible elements.
Let me just stop you, because that's the point I want to ask you. If you know that a student has a history of violent behavior, and according to Ton, had violent episodes while in jail, and now he's coming back, who makes the decision about where a student should go when they return to the school? Like, how in the world is this student in a regular classroom if you already know you have all of the history of this student and their violent tendencies?
Mm-hmm. The thing also about it, you can't discriminate against the kid. Now they have those issues, they have those problems. The issue that a lot of schools come into is if the parent is adamant about their child being in a certain place, until they demonstrate, and sometimes Alvin, you can attest to this, those behaviors, it's not a lot they can do. And then even with that, because again, I'm in a school setting where you see kids do things and they go away for three to 5 days, they come back, they write in the same classroom they were in before. So there is no really consequences or follow through that you will see in the academic setting. So then when you see this video with this boy tossing over tables, yes, the IEP, the 504 should have been followed with fidelity. But even with the IEP and 504 being followed with fidelity, you have people that's in the classroom, like Tom said about preachers that's in the pulpit that shouldn't be there. People in the classrooms would get a check and get that bonus that comes, because again, the teacher shortage. So there's the bonuses you get too. Now you get that $5,000, in some cases $7,000 bonus that's tax free. All I gotta do is sit here with these kids. They haven't been taught. They don't know what CPI training is. They don't know what risk management is. They don't know what medication management is. They don't know anything. They don't know ODD, OPP, ADHD, Asperger's, none of those things. They know none of those things, but they put them in the classroom. And when all these things happen, now you sitting there like, it's the kid's fault. It's home, but you also got to look at the school setting and the people who are making these decisions and the people that we are allowing to teach our kids. That we have more babysitters than we have teachers.
Yeah, and I want to get to that too, because I want you and Alvin to explain this. But before I do that, did I hear him say OPP? He didn't say OPP, did I just want to make sure I understand it. Did I hear that?
Yes, you did. You heard it. He said,
I want to make sure I heard that, right? It wasn't me. Okay.
No, you heard OPP. You down with me.
He said IEP and OPP. What kind of school you working at, bro? I just want to understand. What kind of school you working at? But now, can Alvin or Jim, can y'all explain for those who don't know what an IEP is, what a 504 plan is, and why that's central to this conversation that we're having? Can one of you explain those, please?
So an IEP is an individual education plan. And so what it does is and the 504s, sometimes people refer to them as if they're the same thing. They're technically not the same thing, but they serve similar purposes, right? Mm-hmm. So the goal, when you have a plan in place, these are specifically tailored plans for the individual, the child themselves, and how they need to be taught, the conditions in which they need to be taught. An example might be, for instance, you have a child who has OCD. So as in like obsessive compulsive disorder, right? So they may need to wash their hands, 3 different times in the course of a 2-hour period. And that doesn't have anything to do with their intelligence or their capability. It's just, it is what their diagnosis is. So instead of the teacher getting mad that you're out of your seat for the 3rd time in the last couple of hours because the child actually has a diagnosis that says that this is something that they are unable to control, that cannot be medicated away. There's no other way to be able to address this. This is how we're navigating it. That teacher knows that that child is going to get up 3 times inside of 2 hours, and they need to not penalize the child, mistreat them, or treat them in any different way for something that he or she or they cannot control, right? So the teacher knows to, if they need to redirect the child, for instance, that after they wash their hands the 3rd time, sometimes they need to be redirected to come back to their seat. Otherwise, they will pause where they're standing. There are different things that could be true. It could be a situation where a child has a vision impairment and they don't have a peripheral vision. So they need to sit in a particular location inside of the classroom in order to be able to see the board appropriately. So these individual education plans and or 504s are all designed to help ensure that we're creating the optimal environment for the child given his or her diagnosis or strengths or weaknesses that have been determined where the child is concerned. So it can span all kinds of things, from where they sit to them needing to be able to go to the bathroom, needing to go to the nurse's office. If you have a medical condition like my son did going through school, he needed to be able to, if his blood sugar was low, he needed to be able to leave at any time, no matter whether there was a test going on or not, in order to be able to address that because of his diagnosis. So, but these are all things that parents need to know. You can even get extra time in your standardized testing. You can sit alone in your standardized testing to be able to focus on it if you have a plan in place. And the school is required to follow that plan. And anything that happens as a byproduct of them ignoring a plan in place does create a liability for the school. So
now I'm coming back to Ton on that, but I got to just ask the both of you. Mm-hmm. So the average teacher probably has 20 to 25 students in a classroom, right? Mm-hmm. You're telling me that the teacher is supposed to know to the detail any student of the 25 that has an IEP plan and is supposed to follow it. But then you probably got many others who need to be on a plan, who's not on a plan, but need to be because the parents just didn't go up to the school to create the plan in the first place.
That's correct. And might I add, we want to pay our teachers $40,000, $50,000.
And so the teacher is supposed to understand all of these dynamics in their classroom. And then got bad behavior kids in the classroom.
That's correct.
And you're supposed to teach so that they get past the SOL.
Absolutely. And deal with parents who will treat you like you're the enemy while you're trying to take
care of it. They're disrupting the class.
Not going to be able to do it.
That is correct.
And don't forget about lesson plan. You got to turn in a detailed lesson plan.
That's totally separate.
That goes. You got to do all that. So you got all these battling forces going back and forth that the teacher has to know. Now I will say, we have some amazing teachers, and I work with some great teachers at my local, place of employment. And what they do to help them, those who have 504s and IEPs, they have like a sheet and it's color coded to know what triggers, what accommodations, especially because 504 is tailored more towards behavior. And then it's another one that we haven't talked about, the BIP, which is a behavioral contract type documentation that all these. So you have a teacher, and oftentimes they have to navigate all these different spaces and do it with fidelity. And then don't forget, you got observations if the school is being accredited from the state that's coming in. So it's not making excuses, but we also got to, shout out our teachers. And then, again, most of them not even qualified to do it.
100%.
And to understand, because we're talking about therapeutic terms. I was blessed to be able to go to school to learn the school counseling side of it and the psychology behind it. So that's why I'm able to speak to, DSM, like Alvin, DSM-5 stuff, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these teachers, DSM-5, they think that's like a new app for TikTok or something. They don't know what that is. So,
it's a lot. it's a whole lot, and I got to get to Ton on this, but I just want to say, Al, you know, we haven't even talked. Most people don't even understand, Ray, that they're Title I schools.
That's correct.
Oh yeah.
And Title I schools are schools where the majority of the students are in an impoverished community, right?
Yep.
So if you're in an impoverished community, it's likely that you have a lack of resources and understanding. So then that goes back to the fact that you have a lot of kids that might be sitting in the classroom who need to be on a plan that's not on a plan, and teachers have to deal with them, and they getting cussed out every day. And this is the stuff that be going on. So, Todd, this is where I want to come back to you, because what you said as the layer to this whole story of why you brought it up is because the student who beat the teacher up is now suing the school because apparently they're saying that the teacher did not follow the IEP plan. Is that correct?
No, they're saying the school did not address prior violent behavior. So in other words, they should have known that he was a tick. Matter of fact, the petition says or refers to him as a ticking time bomb, and that they should have known that he had the ability or the propensity to do what he did to this teacher. And it wasn't until he actually exploded on this particular teacher in this particular incident that now all of a sudden you want to throw everything at him. But you should have addressed these issues when he threatened a school employee before, when he spat on someone before, when he assaulted and he threatened students and did this and did that. I mean, you should have addressed all these issues beforehand. But no, you want to wait now that it's gone viral and he has now committed a felonious aggravated assault that he's now facing 30 years. Now, all of a sudden, you want to throw the book at him, and you have forever changed the trajectory of his life. And that's all in the petition. You've changed the trajectory of his life. His life will never be the same now, because now he has this charge and he's facing prison time, which most likely he's going to get some. So they're suing the school, saying that you created this monster and now the monster has arisen. Now you want to do something about it, and you hurt him by not doing what you were supposed to do beforehand. So in other words, if you had dealt with this issue in the beginning, we wouldn't be here today.
But this is to Jason's point, who say kids at his level coming to school spitting on people now, hitting people now, and they get 5 days, they get 10 days, and then they go right back to the same situation that they're in. So correct. What? Y'all help me here. What is the school supposed to do in this situation? Jason,
can I tell you what it is? It's a catch-22. It's a catch-22 because basically we don't want you punishing these students because we believe the majority of the students who are going to end up being punished are our Black and brown children or those who are poverty-stricken. So we don't want you targeting them. However, if you don't address their behavior in alternative ways, which alternative ways are not working, then guess what? Now we're going to punish you because you should have addressed the behavior, even though we didn't want you to, but now we're going to punish you because you. So if I was a cusser, I would say in one way, y'all know exactly what I'm saying. You're done if you do, and you're done if you didn't. That's what they really are saying. It's just, there's no win in this for the teachers. There's no win for the school system. You have to address these issues in the home.
That's it.
But also, when
That's
you
it.
talk about those plans, something else that Ivy can attest to as well, the 504 specifically, you only have up to 10 days of suspension time that you can give these kids. After 10 days, you have to do a whole manifestation. And I've heard administrators and teachers say, I would rather the kids that stay here than have to deal with all the bureaucracy that comes along with, because a manifestation is a whole. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but those are some of the things, Tom, that go through the administrative minds when these kids are flipping over tables and bringing knives to school and slapping people. They aren't going to suspend these kids because, again, they got limited days to do it, and then you get them appealing it based upon, you know, their disability, quote unquote. So it's really, really difficult from both sides, especially from the school setting, that we can't do like you say, send them home. You send them home, then the legal system say, well, you can't send them home without this piece happening. Now it's a lot of rigmarole and back and forth.
I think 3 policy decisions need to be made. 1, punitive damages to the parent when there is continued repetitive behavior on behalf of your child in the school system that continues to, whether he assaults a child, disrespectful, or as you follow their particular plans that they have, and there's total disregard for that, and they continue in the behavior, punitive damages from the parents, from the state level coming down to the local school districts, so that the teachers got something to work with. 2, if you got so many incidents, then he's got to come out of the school. He or she, they got to come out of the school and they got to go to alternative schools, and that should be mandated. And you need to put a number, you need to put a number to it that needs to happen. And then the third one, I'm going right back to punitive damages based upon the egregious act of the child that come to the parents. Because what that does is that causes parents to have to be responsible for their own child. And I'm just saying, Tom, you know your child. You know your child. You know what your child does and does not do. You are the one that has to bring the correction, the discipline, and the change in the life of your child, and leave teachers to be able to educate and teach. That's what I think.
Switch.
But here's the thing.
Hold on, before you do,
Go ahead.
I got another twist. In my research, I found one more twist, y'all.
I can't take no more. I can't even take no more.
I'm sorry, but I got to give it to you because it's just what it is. This young man, his mother, who's been on TV crying about him going to prison and afraid of him going to prison, he's an African American. He's been raised by a Caucasian mother.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say. And you know how I knew that that was the case? When there was the countersuit, that would not have happened with a Black family. I can tell you that right now. And I don't mean that in any way to suggest that we are not intelligent, capable, and everything in between. But the way in which that was done, that is what happens when you typically will happen if you have a well-informed, well-connected family that is typically not in communities of color. The fact that they had the quick wit, the information, and the access to have a countersuit from an attorney that quickly, I could almost guarantee you it was going to be a white parent. I was almost 100% sure of that before you even said it. So like, that's true. Let me tell you something else too. And Jason knows this. If you go to some of these more privileged schools, and I'm not saying privileged because of color, I'm just talking about from an economic perspective, which we often see have a color perspective, right? But I'm just talking about the economics of it. There are so many IEPs and 504s inside of those spaces. They make sure they know the system well enough to use the system in order to effectively make sure that their children are taken care of. When I was dealing with some of my peers coming into college, their parents made sure that they got extra time to take every exam. And they had some of their doctor friends write things to ensure that their children would have some of these. And once they're in place, they are in place. So like, there is a lot that you can do in using it to your benefit. But when you're dealing with Title I schools, most of those families don't have the information, the access, or the resources to ensure the right things are happening, which is my one concern about what it is that you're saying, right? Because the reality is it's going to hit us, communities of color, the worst, because we don't have the information. And when you talk about punitive damages, from what? From what money, right? Like, where are we pulling this from? So like, where is it coming from? And I'm okay with consequences, just like how I raised my children. You will get in trouble for something I taught you. You will never get in trouble for something that I didn't. So I'm okay with there being consequences if we have made sure that we have given opportunity, access, resources, and programming. And now, because you're choosing not to participate in any of these things we've made available for you, now there are consequences associated with that. But if we don't have those things in place, all we're going to do is ensure a continued gap between the haves and the have-nots in these situations. And that's how you see the lives permanently change for brown children, because we don't We can't call an attorney. We don't have a family attorney to take care of these issues as soon as something goes wrong.
So and you're right, Al, it is economics that is connected to this. But what we have also heard, and Bishop, I know you know this to be true, and Jason, you in the schools, Alvin, maybe Ton, you've heard this too. There are a lot of parents who say, I can't control my kid.
That part right there, that part.
Right? There are a lot of parents who, like they say, I don't know what to do with my kid. So what do we do in situations like this, right? I mean, I don't know what they're. How do we help these families?
So on to Alvin's point, if this is why we need Sia here, because the biennium budget for this year is $6.4 billion surplus. So now we need to be able to take some of that money and reroute it in Virginia to preventative care and alternative schools, and then be able to have community engagement involved at the same time. And with some of this, it can come down to, now, this is where I'm gonna get in trouble again. And Anton did not say this, Ray did with his conservative self. He the one who said it. P.O. Box 576, mail me, come see me. I ain't got no problem. Here's the thing. Some of the resource that we use for preventative care, some of the alternative schools should have some Black men in there, like Anton, like Ray, like Kevin, who don't mind having conversations with some of these 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old boys behind some closed doors. Now, I'm not advocating for there to be some violence. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there needs to be some conversations, because you're not gonna swing at one of us and it's gonna be okay. This is not gonna happen.
But see, here's the issue.
So I'm advocating for the fathering piece, if I can say it in a delicate way.
And I agree with that. And I think here's the big challenge with preventative care. And I think we all understand this, but let's just put it out there. And I think, Alvin, you said this before. A lot of elected officials don't get into preventative care because you can't measure it.
You can't measure what didn't happen.
You can't measure what did not happen, right? It's easier to measure what did happen. That's why we're building so many prisons, because I can tell you this many kids at the 3rd grade level don't know how to read.
But that's still a projection. It hadn't happened yet. We shouldn't let them get away with that.
But what we know is that it's likely that if those kids aren't on track by the 3rd grade, there's a percentage that they are going to get caught up in the legal system.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about preventative care, how do we know that what we did was the thing that kept them away? That's and we know that to be true, y'all.
Can I say?
Well, I can't say that.
Can I say this real quick? We talking about, I don't know if Alvin or you, Swan, you said, you talk about the resources, us not having the resources. I work at a Title I school where we have what we call a family engagement specialist who specializes in community partners. And Swan, you even came to my school and, you saw these things in place. We've had conversations offline about this. Here's the issue, just like the church. People don't come to the church where the help is. Yeah. For example, our family engagement specialist will get you housing, will get you connected with parenting classes, get you connected with resources, attorneys. We have programs called Care Silence that will get you free counseling, and the parents will not take advantage of it. We went to a community event where it was something strictly for parents to help them with their kids and stuff like that. But the ones that can't, quote unquote, control their kids, you know how many people came out to the community center that Saturday? 10. 10. Yeah. But then when it's time for Thanksgiving and Christmas, they scamming, trying to get multiple turkeys. That, guess what? They gonna flip the turkey. They gonna sell the turkeys back to somebody. They gonna take the toys back to the store and say they bought it to get store credit to go get some other stuff. But so we gotta talk about the mindset that these families, these mothers and these fathers and aunties and grandmamas have. Because I'm on the phone listening to them say, Mr. Covenant, I didn't get nothing to eat. And I had to stop it because I was going to my pocket, giving them food. And then you go out here and you see their kids wearing Jordans. I'm talking about the brand new 225 joint. No, sir. So it's a mindset. So, yeah, it's bad that Black and brown kids get done a certain type of way, but we allow ourselves to be done a certain type of way. And guess what? Who you not going to mistreat? You're not going to mistreat Langston, Micah Covington, and Layla Michelle Covington. But guess what? The daddy coming up there, and I'm gonna put my badge down and let's have a conversation as a father to the school system. But we and I'm gonna be intelligent with it. I'm not flipping over tables and cussing and stuff because you get nothing for that. You know, you go in there and say, hey, these are all right. This is what we need to do, and let's move on from this. And then they like, whoa, how you know all that stuff? Can I read? I have people like Albie, and I say, hey, I don't know what this is. Can you help me? Because I need to be connected. And the families don't take advantage of those connection points that they have. And that's why we had what we had. That's why we got a 6'7", 270-pound boy beating up on a female.
That's a grown man.
Because guess what? He saw his mama, he saw his auntie, somebody getting beat up at the house. So he's only doing what he saw.
Now, I agree with that.
Do we know how old he is? Do you know, Anton? Because I didn't see it in the article.
No, I didn't see his age. I didn't see his age, but he's been charged as an adult. But I didn't see his age. But the fact that he is being raised by a Caucasian woman lets me know
that's
that
a problem.
There's been some dysfunction or some trauma or something
removed from his
because he's not being raised by his biological parents.
So wait, let me pause you on that. Ray, you said that's a problem. What do you mean when you say that that's a problem?
Because there is a difference in a cultural dynamic of connection, and particularly with Black boys, that I think that Black parents understand their children and understand their response or lack thereof, that unless a white parent has grown up in an environment, meaning reared this particular child, they may view some of their responses to be something that is unencourageable. For example, if one of our kids smacks their teeth, we understand that is just a moment of expressiveness. That can be completely and totally misconstrued in a different cultural dynamic. And so that's what my concern is with that. Here's the second part of it. The second part of it is we don't know, whether the article says he's an athlete or not, because a lot of times athletes will be taken from one home, put into another home to be able to qualify to go to a certain school district to participate in sports activities. That's what leans me. I kind of almost want to lean in that direction. It happens a lot, particularly when you got these boys who are 15, 16, 17 years old, but they 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". That's what makes me say.
I just want to go on record that I disagree. We don't have enough time to be able to get into the disagreement.
We'll go part three. We can
talk about part 3, but I just want to address the fact that I believe that there are you can have cross-cultural adoptions that could be very healthy for a child if the parent does the work. It is true that you have to do the work to understand as much of the culture as you can. It is true that you have to make the necessary connections so that the children have what they need in their social, cultural identity and development, that it's not seen different, isn't seen as deficient in any way, but they understand who they are. But I do believe that love can be absolutely colorless, and you can do a fantastic job raising cross-culturally if you're willing to do the work. So I just wanted to make a point of that. And I don't believe that just because she's a white woman, that she couldn't love and raise this Black child quite well, because obviously the Black parents this child once had were not doing their job, which is the reason why we have a white woman raising this child. And she cares enough about him, for wrong or right, she cares enough about him to recognize that what is getting ready to happen to this child is going to change his future. And she's willing to fight for it. And I will give her credit for that. The child still done messed up, but I will give her credit for the willingness to fight for it. Go ahead, Anton, I'm sorry.
In addition to that, you have to know, Ray, that a great number of the kids who are left in foster care systems are very well because we don't step up to raise these kids, adopt these kids.
Absolute fact.
Because as a community, we're not stepping up to raise them. I ain't gonna be mad at somebody else that's going to step up, and they're going to, if they truly love these kids and try to raise these kids, I ain't got no problem with that.
So Tom, we got 1 minute left. I want you to end the show. If this case happened in Hampton,
See, stuff like that made me want to call you.
Wrong question. We ain't got enough time.
No, because you can't just in 1 minute try to put that into.
So Tom, I'm simply asking, would you be going forward with trying him as an adult? That
Yeah,
kind
he
of
gonna
stuff.
be tried, bro. Oh, he gonna be tried. You can't beat nobody down like that and not be tried. Now, don't get me wrong. You still got to deal with the past mistakes that maybe others may have made as a result of why did we get to where we are. But at the end of the day, she didn't ask to be a victim, and she didn't ask to have 5 broken ribs, and she didn't ask to lose her hearing, and ask to have a severe. Oh, he got to get charged. I'm sorry, he got to get charged now.
Okay. All right. We'll end it right there because we're out of time.
He gonna get charged.
But you saw how Tom was trying to choose violence on me. I just wanted to record this show. He was coming for me. I'm simply trying to ask a question. You know what I'm saying? Y'all saw that. I got witnesses. Time the Bible say let it be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. I got 1, 2, 3 right here. Right here.
You can't lay that on the brother in a minute and 50 seconds left, though.
I just simply want to ask when he go forward with charges. But that's all I was going to ask.
He got to have the charges now.
Okay. All right. Great show today. Thanks, Tom. Again, this is part 2 of, what do we call this series? Kids Gone Wild. What do we call this? I don't know.
Students gone wild.
Boy,
Okay.
Lord have mercy. We got to
Wow.
go. Drop your comments in our chat. We do check them out. We hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, be blessed to be a blessing to someone else. Peace.
Okay, I hope you loved it as much as we did. Thank you for joining us for another fire show for the crew. Listen, you can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any streaming platform that you're using for your podcast. Share with a friend, expand the family. Listen, we're trying to do this thing with all of you as often as we possibly can. We're looking forward to you joining us again for our next show.